Hello everyone, this is another awesome video by Professor Patio, and today we're going to talk about order of operations. Now, when someone tells you order in math, the word order is usually, you want to think about like what goes first, what goes second, and then what goes third and so on, okay? And then when we think of operations in math, we're talking about these operations: adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Okay? So we're going to talk about order of operations. All right? Now, order of operations is basically this. The order of operations tells us what we do first, second, third, and fourth. Okay? And the key thing to remember is when we use order of operations, the strongest operations go first. Okay, the strongest operations. So anything in parentheses is the strongest. Okay, and then anything with exponents like 2 to the 4th power or 3 to the 6th power, anything with exponents goes second. So parentheses is the most powerful. Exponents is the second most powerful. Okay, so we go for the strongest operations first. Okay, now when we try to, so one of the things that you have to do is you have to be able to memorize the order of operations. All right, so a lot of times people memorize this PEMDAS, and for some people, one way to remember PEMDAS is to use this. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. It's just one way to memorize it, but you want to try to memorize PEMDAS. But you also have to be careful because there are two things that you need to remember when you're memorizing PEMDAS. And some people call it PEMDAS. You have to be careful that multiplication does not always go before division. Now it looks like M goes before D, but multiplication does not always go before addition. And then the other thing too to be careful about, addition does not always go before subtraction. And the reason is, if you go back to the rules for order of operations, anytime that we multiply and divide, we have to start on the left and go to the right. Okay? Same thing for adding and subtracting. Every time you add and subtract, you have to start on the left, then go to the right. Okay? So again, if you see multiply and divide, start on the left, go to the right. If you see addition and subtraction, go from left to the right. Alright, now let's take a look at some examples of how to use the order of operations. Alright, now you see here that there is addition, division, and exponents. Alright, now one thing to do while you do these problems is that you want to do things one step at a time. So many people make mistakes because they end up doing two things at the same time. So what I like to do is on my paper, I'm going to do things step by step in using different lines. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually just change this expression into something different. We're actually simplifying the expressions. We're making things simpler to look at. Alright? So we want to solve this problem. Now I need to think about, am I adding first? Am I dividing first? Or am I doing the exponents first? Okay? So, and I'm looking over here. Now, do I see parentheses in this problem? In this expression? No. Do I see exponents in this expression? Ah, yes I do. I see it right here. So I'm going to do this step first. Okay? Now I remember that 3 to the 2nd power is the same thing as just 3 times 3. And so 3 times 3 is 9. Okay? Now, I'm not going to add and divide yet because remember what I said. I'm going to do things one step at a time. So I'm just going to copy the 11, copy the plus, copy the 9, and the division sign right here. Okay? All I did was do one step at a time. Now, I look at my order of operations again, and now I'm thinking, do I see any multiplication or division? Yes, I do. I see it right here. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to mark it, I'm going to do 9 divided by 9. Okay? 9 divided by 9 is just 1. So all I'm doing is changing that expression, 9 divided by 9, I'm changing it to a 1. Okay? Because 9 divided by 9 is 1. And now I'm going to copy everything down. This is an 11. I'm copying the 11 and I'm copying the plus. So now all I'm doing is changing this expression. What is 11 plus 1? 11 plus 1 is 12. Okay? So now I took this whole expression and I used order of operations and made it more simpler, and now I got 12, and that is my final answer. This expression is the same thing as 12. Okay? So now let's go ahead and try the second problem. Now the second problem, I'm just going to make some more room here. The second problem, again, I'm going to do things one step at a time, and the reason why I do that is it's going to help me see my mistakes if I make any mistakes, and I can know which step I did wrong. Okay, so and you'll notice that every time that I'm writing a new line, I'm always writing an equal sign. Okay, so now let's go back to my order of operations and let's think about what am I going to do first. And I'm looking here, and so the first thing I have to ask myself is step 1. Step 1 is letter P. Do I see any parentheses? Ah, yes I do. It's right here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to mark it with a line or an arrow, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 is just 2. Okay, so I'm going to write the 2, and in fact I'm going to keep the parentheses, and I'll tell you why later. And what do I do with the rest of these? Copy it down. So I'm copying 4 to the third power. I'm copying the minus sign. I'm copying the 3, and I'm copying plus 2. Okay. Now, let's keep on going over here. The next thing is, so the next letter here is E, PEMDAS. The next letter is E in PEMDAS. And the next step is to do exponents. So the question for me is, do I see any exponents? Yes, I do. I see them right over here. Okay, so this is the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to mark that. And I'm now going to have to do 4 to the third power. So I'm just going to write on the side, somewhere on the side, and I need to do 4 times 4 times another 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times another 4 is 64. Okay, so I did all the work on the side, and I know that 4 to the third is the same thing. It's or equal to 64. Okay, and now I'm going to copy everything else. Copy the minus sign, copy the 3 parentheses 2, and copy plus 2. Okay, now the next step is is letter M. Okay, the next step is multiplication or division. So looking over here, do I see any multiplication or division? Yes, I do. Okay, so but you might not know this, okay, or you already do, that this is actually multiplication. Anytime you see a number next to parentheses, a number just right next to, standing next to parentheses, like this 3 is standing next to this parentheses right here, this is multiplying. This is 3 times 2. So what is 3 times 2? 3 times 2 is just 6. Okay, so I'm going to change this expression to a 6. Change 3 parentheses 2 to a 6. And I'm going to copy the minus sign, copy the 64, and copy plus 2. Okay, now we are almost there. And now I'm going to look at my order of operations again, and I'm going to ask myself, in step 4, do I see any addition or subtraction? And I'm looking here, and yes, I see addition and subtraction, but I have to remember the rule. start from the left and go to the right. Start from the left and go to the right. So I'm just going to go left to right. And starting on my left, I have to do 64 minus 6. 64 minus 6 is 58. And so I'm changing this expression, this 64 minus 6 to 58, and now I'm adding 2. And then finally, I can do that addition step. That's the very last thing I'm going to do. And so 58 plus 2 is just 60. And so I've taken this long expression, this big expression, and now I've changed it to 60 using the order of operations. And I remembered to do things one step at a time. Okay? So anytime that I see that I have a mistake, I can go back and look at my steps and see, oh, I can see where I made my mistake. But I'm looking at this right now and I don't see a mistake. Okay? So hopefully this helps you do order of operations problems, and hopefully you start to memorize PEMDAS. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.